Well, tubers, tubettes, and of course my favorite group of all, the crazy people. I was going to do a short video tonight about my experience at immigration in Cebu. Now, I know there's been a lot of yicky-yacky about immigration lately, and that's not the topic that I am going to be getting into at all. This is about my 13A visa, and I thought I'd explain to you if you wanted to know what a 13A visa is and what some of the processes are involved in obtaining one or not obtaining one, because you can be denied. The reason I'm not touching the other subject is because it's already been done on about 17 different channels. I have an opinion, but right now I'm taking my own advice. Watch what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. So since everybody else is talking about this 2-month thing and this new agenda, I'm just going to let it lie. And maybe I'll talk to you about it sometime in the future. My state of mind is that let's sit back and see what happens for a while before we start yapping. Anyway, the 13A. We have 3 ways of getting to Cebu. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but we have to go to Cebu to make this happen. It's an interview with the immigration office there. The immigration office here in Dumaguete is a satellite office, so they cannot perform that function here. We have 4 ways to travel to Cebu. We can either take a plane, we can take a ferry, we can take a bus, or we could drive ourselves, motorbike or car. I would never drive a motorbike there, end of story, even though I have friends that do it. I would not even drive my car there. It would be more comfortable, but I think I would be a nervous wreck by the time I finished that trip. Just not my idea of fun. I got a car basically just to bounce around town, buy groceries, and stay out of the weather. And then there's the bus. Did I mention the plane? I don't like the plane because I had a friend doing the exact same thing but different. He was going for his SRRV, which is a different department, and he missed his flight because the flight got canceled. And so he had to take a later flight, and then he was in big time hurry up mode because he had to be there early in the morning and he didn't get any sleep, and it was one of those stories. So I didn't want to be one of those stories. I always want to get to Cebu the night before or the day before any appointment that I have with immigration. I've done it at least a dozen times. I've had to go there for exit clearances, which I won't try to explain, but in a nutshell, an exit clearance is something that you need if you're leaving the country and you've been in country for more than 6 months. You must obtain an exit clearance. And that has to be done in Cebu. And since I've bugged out of the country 4 different times in the 7 years that I've been here, I've made that trip. We've also gone to Cebu for some functions. And we've always taken the bus. And the bus has always taken 6 hours. But it didn't take 6 hours. This time, it took 8 hours. And the reason it took 8 hours each way is because they're working on the roads. And some of it goes down to 1 lane. So we would be cooling our heels for 20 minutes, waiting for 1 lane to go through, and then it was our turn, and we would go. Now you do that 3 times, there's an hour, and then the rest stops seem to stretch out by about 15 minutes longer, and then we hit traffic and all that good stuff. So it was an 8-hour deal. It's not a comfortable way to go, but it is extremely inexpensive. It was exactly 1,000 pesos for both of us to go one way. 2,000, 40 bucks roughly, round trip on the bus there. And the reason I like the bus is I get to look out the window, or I can nod off and take a snooze. They stop after 2 or 3 hours. Everybody gets a potty break, a smoke break, snack break. And, if you break it up, and you know what you're in for, it's just not all that bad. It's also never been that bad to me because I have kept my eye on the prize. I've got a goal to accomplish. I've got a mission to complete. I need to get this done because if I suffer for 8 hours on the bus and my poor wife's suffering right along with me, it's not a comfy ride. Well, and we accomplished the mission. It's just like cool. That day's over. That bus ride's over, and then we will check into our hotel. And the next day, that's exactly what we did. We made the trip on Sunday. Our appointment was 10 o'clock on Monday. Sunday, we checked into the Quest Hotel. I got to give the Quest Hotel a major thumbs up. It was recommended to me by multiple people, and I have to add myself to the list. If you're going to Cebu, and I'm not sponsoring them or being, paid or anything to say anything, I'm just giving them a thumbs up. I would recommend the Quest for the money and the service and the food that they offer. They have a great buffet at night. It's right across the street from Ayala Mall, and it's just location, the staff, the cleanliness. I think it was like $75 a night. I give it a thumbs up. So there's a little plug for the Quest Hotel. All right, so May and I got in, and we were a little apprehensive. We had brought along with us what we had heard you need to show. We needed to prove to whoever we talked to during this interview that we have actually been a couple, and for how long. So we have pictures, pulled up a couple of pictures with dates on them. So it was like 2019, and I had one on my phone that's 2018, and so we said, we'll fly with that. And then we brought along some paperwork showing that we purchased some land, that we're serious, and our marriage certificate, which they didn't need any of it, but we brought it anyway. And when we went in for the interview, we were apprehensive because our friend that had gone prior to us, about a month before, he was actually denied. His circumstances were different than ours. He is 62 years old, and his wife is in her 20s. They had known each other, I don't pretend to know the exact numbers, but I'm going to say a couple, 2.5 years, something like that, and been married for maybe a year and a half. So the time frame was not really long. The age gap was 10 years more than mine and May's, and just the visual on it of the older guy with the younger woman, they went through the interview process, and the person that they had was just kind of, well, I don't know how to put it. I guess he was just sort of grumpy and looking for a way to say no, and demanded to see pictures, demanded to see this, wanted to see their personal messages, reading their personal correspondence to go back and see how far they'd gone. I thought that's pretty intrusive, And for whatever reason, I was told this story a month ago, so I don't remember all the details. The guy said, you know what, I don't think I'm going to approve this. I don't think I'm going to approve this at all. He used, as I did, JRC, Visa Consultancy. So he went to the representative there. There's a woman there that meets you and helps you and shows you around. JRC, again, I'm not plugging them. Well, I guess I am plugging them, but I'm not endorsed by them or paid by them. But I've always enjoyed working with them. Yeah, you can do it for free. Yeah, you can do it for less money. But for me, I'd rather have somebody that really knows how to smooth the trail out for me, remove the rocks and boulders, and fill out the forms and get it all done correctly than me trying to go through it. For me, it's worth every nickel. Anyway, and it turned out that it was really worth it for my friend, who will remain nameless. But the JRC rep went over and kind of intervened and said, hey, can we get another set of eyes on this? We endorse these people. I guess they stood up for them. And somebody else got involved. And at the end of the day, they said, okay, approved. And so we had that in the back of our heads. I said, I hope we don't get this guy that our friend got, because I have to keep my demeanor real cool and real calm with these people. We, on the other hand, got like Donny Osmond. This was a real young, good-looking young man. And he just sat down. He had a big smile on his face. And he says, excuse me, I'm just going to look through your paperwork. We said, okay. And I had a feeling that this guy was just going to approve us. I just had that vibe. He looked positive, like he wanted to. And I don't know if it's because of the way me and I are, May's 39 years old as opposed to 23 or 24. So that's on a visual scale, that's a little easier, I think, to accept, even though I'm elderly and we have a 30-year age gap. So he thumbed through our paperwork, and then he asked me, and I could see he was a little almost ashamed that he had to ask this. But he said, how do you get along? Do you guys fight? And I said, nah, man. We get along fine. Have we had disagreements? Of course. Have we screamed and yelled at each other? No, we haven't. And I had the foresight, I like to think. So I wore my shirt from the embassy, and I had my little pin from the embassy. The Phil American pin was here. And May pointed out, she goes, yeah, he's also a volunteer at the embassy. And he goes, you're with the embassy? And I said, yeah. He says, you work for the United States Embassy? I said, oh, no, bro. I'm just a volunteer at the embassy. He goes, wow, that's really cool. What do you do? And I told him, I said, well, if a fellow American gets in trouble or is hospitalized or has a problem with Social Security or, heaven forbid, gets thrown in jail, I am the one that goes down or somebody else, and we try to get their contact information and let them. Last time I went to a hospital, and I got my phone out and I let the embassy talk to him on the phone and ask him questions. That was about 2 weeks ago. I didn't tell the kid that, but I just let him know that was basically what my function was. And he said, well, we need more people like you here in the Philippines. And right then I knew I was golden. And then he said, because you're adding to the country. And I said, well, I'd rather participate than be a spectator. And so he asked May one question. He says, how does Paul treat you? How does Mr. McGill treat you? And May's answer was, he is very kind. He's a very kind man. And he said, you know what? You guys are approved. I can tell by talking to you, meeting with you, your body language, everything is, you're hunky-dory, you're good to go. And that was our experience. Boom. We were in, we were out. And then we went back to the hotel. I don't know if I mentioned this or not. I might be repeating myself. I gave JRC a plug because I enjoy their services. I also want to give a shout out to the Quest Hotel where we stayed. Super nice staff, very nice rooms, very clean, I think very reasonable. I think through Agoda we paid about $75 a night. We stayed Sunday night, the night before the interview. And then after the interview, we were free. We were out of there. We went in at 10. We were probably done by 11. And that was simply after waiting. The interview itself was maybe 10 minutes. And then we walked over across the street to the Ayala Mall. So May and I went over there and we just kicked around for 5 or 6 hours. We got totally lost in the Ayala Mall. We didn't know where we were half the time. And that was half the fun. So we kind of enjoyed just milling about. We met a few people that recognized us from the channel, so we had an opportunity to chat with them. And now we're back home. And the bus ride home was just a lot less grueling than the ride there. However, even though it took just as long, it was just as bumpy, we still had to stop off at the same, I call them crappy little places to eat and use the CR and all that kind of stuff. It's not my cup of tea. You kind of hurry up and rush to eat and blah, blah, blah. And I don't eat. May does. But I think the ride back was so much more pleasant because we were coming back mission accomplished. It was over with. It was done. And now on a 13A, I'll just give a quick synopsis on how that works, and we'll call it a video. When we got married, I had the opportunity to apply from being a tourist to being a resident, and I was on a 1-year probationary visa, 13A visa. This was the final interview, or the interview after the probation period, to finalize it and secure it and lock it up. And now, when in a couple of months, is how long it takes to process all this paperwork, I will no longer have an ACR card. I'll have a resident card. And that's good for 5 years. So for 5 years, I have to go to immigration every January and pay 310 pesos. And the only requirement is that I bring May with me, because they want to make sure that we're not on some kind of paper marriage. That's the whole reason you go through all this, is they just want to make sure that the marriage is authentic, that we're not doing something where I give some woman that I just met X amount of dollars and she marries me just so I can get this status. That's happened in the past. And you've heard of mail order brides and all that other kind of stuff. So that's why the Philippines works it this way, or that's the best way I can figure it out, is they just wanted to protect her. And it's not a money grab, because if I stayed on the tourist visa, I'd be paying $500-600 a year for that. Where here I'm paying about the equivalent of maybe $5 or $6 a year. And the only thing I have to do, like I said, is bring May with me. I'm actually invited by May to go down and do it, and then I renew, and I'm good for 5 years. And to be honest with you, I don't know what happens after 5 years. I guess we just start it all over again. All right, so I thought I would just share that with you. I know there's a lot of chitter-chat and titty-tat going on about visas right now and immigration. There's about 17 videos out there. I've watched a number of them, and I've decided to stay out of the fray, because I don't feel like there's enough information or time gone by yet for me to comment on it with any kind of real information. I have more questions than answers on that situation about being here over a year. I do have a couple of solutions in my head, but like I said, I'm just going to keep my yap shut until the time I feel is appropriate, and then I'll throw my 2 cents worth in on that. All right, guys, I hope you liked the little video. It's just a little quickie, nothing too prophetic here, but I just thought I would share our experience, because one day you too might be going on a bus ride to Cebu for your 13A. All right, I'll see you in the next video.